ways here. I totally forgot to turn on my microphone. That's fun. Apologies for everyone that's watching the video here. I actually just forgot to turn on my microphone here, so um, I might have to redo a bunch of this here. Anyways, but no, Lionel, I think you're correct in terms of the Instagram, the subscriptions side of things. I think it's only a matter of time for that to happen. In terms of I think because if you want to have people to if you want to monetize it for creators, like how else are you going to attract people and kind of like build a community on Instagram in a better way, in a more intimate way, right? And but I think it was only a matter of time. I don't know where it goes from here. I think it's like it's common sense that to think like, hey, all right, they're doing subscriptions, sure. Like, but what else happens after that, right? Um, but like, I don't know.
Going on? Is your mic on? Audio, AirPods. Ken, can you hear me? You're only in Twitter Spaces? The video is on. No, I don't hear space at all. Why are you saying nothing here, though? There's a video. Why is the video on, though, if you're doing a Twitter Space?
Yeah. So, that's a good point. That's a good point, Lionel. And apologies. So we're dealing with some technical difficulties here. Turns out I was trying to stream my audio from StreamYard into Twitter Spaces as well. But apparently, the Twitter Spaces audio is not piping into the video, so that's just like people are watching on video and like, what is Ken talking about? It like, why is he completely silent and not talking about everything? So it's a fun Friday. I think it's all the bad juju that we had in previous has kind of all fallen on me. So apologies for that, but appreciate the insights there, Lionel. I'm not sure. Greg, hi. Welcome to this and welcome back. You in Boulder right now?
I'm in Boulder, but I got here early, so have a little time before the kickoff of things.
Gotcha. So in light of all basically the fuck ups here, why don't we just kind of talk about the high level stuff while we have you here? We talked about how Instagram and TikTok are kind of testing out their early subscription in the US. Like, any thoughts you have on that, and then we can jump right into the Twitter NFT news.
No, I think it's just it's a good sign for creators, I guess, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing I think this is just going horizontal now, right? So we're after this is TikTok left for subscriptions.
TikTok
Right?
TikTok has announced that they're testing out paid subscriptions
Okay.
as well. Yeah.
So we have a fairly horizontal ecosystem now, like, right, where a creator can have a subscription on any or every service if they want to, which I think is good for creators. I don't know where it leaves fans, right? Like, this is, I think, the unfortunate part is like a fan, a creator who's multi-SKU or multi-platform, like, where does a fan subscribe? I think this does create a little bit of sort of friction. Maybe they'll continue to rely on a Patreon or something like that as the unifier. But I do think it still leads to problems if you want to offer perks or other things to like paid subscribers. You now can't really do that like cross platform, right? Because if I'm a TikToker and an Instagrammer and I have a paid subscriber thing only on my Instagram, but I subscribed on your TikTok, now I can't get access to it, right?
Right. So
So
why don't we move right into like NFTs? I think this is the Twitter NFT. That's kind of the big thing. I mean, it kind of came out, yesterday.
yeah,
So those that are not aware, Twitter is now supporting NFT profile pictures as your avatar, but you have to be a subscriber to its Blue service. That's a $2.99 monthly service. Right.
no, all right. Let's just for clarity, the beta test is available to Blue subscribers,
Yeah.
but there's been a little bit of FUD out there about like I guess how the program is running, and some people are thinking it's a paid feature. I don't think it's a paid feature, so I just want to be careful not to frame it that way.
Well, currently, the only way you can do that integration within like an OpenSea or something like that. That is with you need to be on iOS on using a subscribe to Twitter or Blue currently.
And not even all Blue subscribers have it, by the way, right? Like,
Yeah.
so so the just if you're not aware of the setup, Twitter Blue set of paid features that enhancements to your Twitter experience. Included in there is access to Twitter Labs, right?
Hmm.
And that is where they roll out or beta test new capabilities with sort of their more diehard users. And it's not fully horizontal, so not like every person that has Blue has access to the NFT project yet. And I believe, but we don't know for sure, that that this will go to the mainstream like upon like successful completion of sort of the beta test.
Right. Yeah, and I think this has certainly gotten some pushback from got mixed reaction in the community here. Those that are like, oh my god, like this is great because this is a nice little. I mean, if first of all, I guess it's the first integration with OpenSea's API, and as those that are participating in this that are able to do this, they have a new avatar shape instead of a default circle. It's now a hexagon where you can display your NFTs. But also by doing so, I mean, currently, like you can display your NFTs on Twitter regardless. You don't need this feature. However, if you have it, it allows you to it offers like that verification, that those type of things, that the fact that you legitimately own that NFT as opposed to just taking a random image and putting it as your profile pic.
Well, so I think here's what I'll say. Some people are like, I was in a space yesterday where there, you know, folks were arguing this is not the thing we need. Like we're the thing, or this is not a thing this may be a thing we want, but it's not a thing we need. I would say like there's some pros to this, right? Like as someone who owns or is like helping or supporting like I don't know like 40 different NFT projects, I tend to switch my avatar often,
Hmm.
right? Like as I join a space maybe for like expansion punks, so I can show my like solidarity like with the people in that space, right? So I do that, but what I had to do was like actually save my photos, my NFTs down, make an album, and then basically have to constantly switch them, inside of like, every time. Like, so I was doing this multiple times a day, basically, right? So that's a small inconvenience, obviously. What I do think it does add, though, as a dimension that's good, is number one, it does validate like your actual ownership, right? But also, which I don't think people quite understand entirely, it's marketing those projects, right? Because like when you click on that NFT, it actually gives you all the data, the traits, and all the other stuff about it, and links back to OpenSea, so that if someone's like, "That's a great piece of art," and wanted to buy one, you can do that now, right? And so that just sort of happens for free because you've connected sort of your NFT, your wallet to your account now.
Yeah. No, you're right, and I think I mean, right now, so uh, because it's using, even though it's using OpenSea's API, it also connects with a variety of different crypto wallets, such as Coinbase Wallet, Rainbow, MetaMask, Ledger Live, Argent, and Trust Wallet. Those are the only ones currently supported. Um, and I mean, it's limited to those that are in the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. You have to be on an iOS device. in order to take advantage. So those that are Twitter Blue but on Android will not be able to participate in this. However, again, like there's that type of integration, the full integration. That's with a nice thing, but that's not stopping anyone from sharing their NFTs as their profile picture. I think you can still do it. You just don't get as much of the, there's a little bit of a trade-off. So, and there's obviously heavy criticism. I don't want to say a majority of it is all bad about it.
There's a
But
lot of bad.
well, there are people that are complaining more for vanity and personal reasons, as opposed to this feature itself is just awful. Like, I think they're tearing down Twitter more on how it was executed as opposed to the actual process.
So let me summarize. I had a thread about this yesterday. I will say that it's been interesting because it's there's sort of like pushback from both sides, right? On the one hand, I've seen a number of like the anti-crypto people basically saying like, great, if I know you have this hexagon, I'm going to block you, right? Or I'm going to kick you in the ass, right? Or whatever it's going to be, which I find kind of stupid, but fine. Like, if you're anti-NFT, like now they've sort of like given a scarlet letter to like every NFT holder, right? The second part, though, which I think is an equally odd side, is the crypto people seem to be annoyed because I think, on the one hand, not everyone got access to it, but I've even seen people complaining that they have to like pay anonymously or something like that, right? Like, because they have to like attach a credit card, and I find this also fairly farcical because, like, the best I know, you cannot operate in a crypto only world without identifying yourself, right? Like you have to pay usually like somewhere with a card, or unless you're like literally in a cash only world. So I guess like their complaint that Twitter has now a credit card on them, I guess, which means they're doxxed to Twitter, right? Like, guess what? You could be doxxed to Twitter. You could be doxxed to like a whole bunch of other random startups, right? Like, I'd probably still trust Twitter to not get screwed over like the random startup, right? So I don't know, like, but I feel like it's very petty on the NFT side, like the complaints. And I honestly feel like it was just a lot of disinformation, where people just don't know how anything works, honestly, right? Like, it's just seriously like ignorance, right? Like, people don't understand how product development works. People don't understand how software development works. Clearly, people don't understand how capitalism works, right? Like, and by the way, I don't even think this is like a huge capitalistic push by Twitter. Like, they're not, from all like estimations. I don't think they did this to get all these people to sign up for Twitter Blue so they can make $3 a month off of them, right? Like, that's just
Twitter's just
asinine.
raking in the money.
Yeah, like from all 10,000 NFT, like high NFT people, right? Like so you're like, I think you're just showing your ignorance, right? Like, if you're actually griping about this, in one or multiple domains.
Yeah, look, I think it's a good test for Twitter. And maybe in devil's advocate side, it's like, look, you launch this feature within Twitter Blue because it's, as you pointed out, Greg, it's part of the Twitter labs, right? So you don't just open it up to the masses and just say, hey, let's see how it works. Like, you scale it up,
Yeah. Well, other people were complaining like, oh, well, Twitter's not supportive, or they're not listening to the NFT community. I'm like, I consider this a fairly big nod to the community to actually have spent resources and thinking and time and energy and money, like, to actually enable this capability. And hopefully it will be rolled out to everybody. Like, but it's better to fail small than to fail big, right? Like, and OpenSea has been down like every day or every half day for forever. Like, if Twitter is dependent on OpenSea, guess what? It's going to take time. Like, they're trying not to overwhelm OpenSea so they don't scale out of recognition. And everyone who's like, you don't need to use OpenSea, I was like, you've clearly never written any code that speaks to the blockchain to understand the complexity of actually validating collection data and all the other stuff, right?
So Greg, I mean, it's like, Twitter's actually one of the first big platforms to kind of really implement, not just think about it, just implement some NFT type of strategy, right? And it's like, or for the end user, right? You don't see that on.
NFT, yes.
Yeah,
Crypto, I think Substack did crypto first, right?
yeah, but specifically
Yeah,
NFT, right? But then
specifically NFT, yeah.
yeah, as we're talking about earlier, while my mic was off because I clearly know technology here, because I report about it clearly. Meta is saying is reportedly looking into NFTs for Facebook and Instagram. So I kind of want to get your thoughts, because that would be a little bit more substantial than Twitter, because you not only can you just display, you're going to be able to create and sell, if this goes through, NFTs on two big platforms, on Facebook and Instagram. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, one, I think it will be much like we're seeing with the subscriptions. I believe this capability set will be horizontal as well. So my guess would be Twitter will also allow you to sort of create NFTs. My guess would be, Jeremiah was pointing this out the other day, that they probably will like list your NFTs or collectibles on your profile now, like, or become a new tab or something like that. What you would sell through Twitter, I do think feels a little different, like at least from a classic NFT point of view, right? Like Instagram seems like a layup, right? Like, great, I have a beautiful picture. I want to mint some editions of that, like super easy. Facebook, I think, has like maybe like it's in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you can do like more photo rich things, but the reality is, like, would I really want to turn a Facebook post into an NFT? I don't think so, right?
Yeah.
But much like would I turn a tweet into an NFT? It's possible, right? Like, I just think it's there. Now, I think you're absolutely right, though, Ken. The real power here is ultimately turning a billion people into wallet holders, right? Or billions of people into wallet holders. Because the more important part is not the NFTs, is that to facilitate it, it would mean that everyone now has a wallet,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And of course, we
And
know Meta has their own crypto wallet that they're working on.
yeah, and so that
Universe.
would be a massive win for like everybody in crypto, NFTs, etc. Because at that point now, I can just send it to your Facebook profile. Screw your .eth. I could like send it to your Facebook profile, and it would literally be like the same thing as sending you a wallet, on OpenSea or somewhere else.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. The I think it's called Novi, or now at this point. Like, they've been trying to work on that for a while. Obviously, regulatory concerns abound, but I think one thing though is, like, if you look at even if they don't switch people over to their own crypto wallet, and there's like, hey, use MetaMask, or we'll support all these other things similar to what Twitter has. The potential there is like, I think it's different from, like, I think on Twitter it's maybe there's a higher likelihood that the people that are selling NFTs are individuals, right? But then if you go into Facebook and Instagram, there are more, let's call them, business focus, right? Small businesses or freelance artists, those that really want to make more money off of this, as opposed to like, oh, just, I guess let's call them freelancers. Not, it's like a different. It's all subtle nuances. It's all
Yeah.
technicalities, but I mean, it's different levels of how are you a merchant or whatever. And Twitter and Facebook's done a bang up job in terms of capitalizing on the small business and brand market. So maybe that's where this potentially could come into play, in terms of like, hey, we want this to be that type of place. Although it's also, you can buy, sell, and create NFTs to post onto your page or in your profile or whatever. I don't know.
The thing is, Ken, I think the more interesting thing, and I pointed this out, I replied to this in Jeremiah's post as well about it, is I don't think it's the sale part that is actually the more interesting part. I think to me, what's exciting about this is, one, the wallet part,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of onboarding millions of users, billions of users potentially, right? Imagine if every Facebook user automatically had a wallet, right? Game over, right? Like, all the friction, all this bullshit goes away, right? But the secondary part, I believe, that is more valuable is actually the utility part now, right? Because imagine a Twitter space being gated by those NFTs that you hold, right? Like, imagine who can reply to my message? Only like holders of my NFT. Who can get into my Facebook group? Only holders of this NFT. That has like really tremendous utility value from a user-based permissioning system, as opposed to like a system-based permissioning system, right? Like, Facebook makes a bunch of rules about this stuff, but now it provides the ability for every one of us to develop our own complex systems for gating and access control and all these other things that we could then apply, like, by using these things or combinations of these things.
Gotcha. Yeah. How are you on time right now, Greg? Are you about to?
This doesn't start till 10, so I have
Oh,
another half hour.
okay, great. Yeah. So, I mean, those are the big ones that I got covered out there. I mean, do you have any thoughts in terms of, Vine? Actually, were you a big
What?
Vine user back in the day?
No. This
No.
is back?
No, no. So actually, it's been 5 years since Vine shut down, and so
Okay.
NBC kind of the
Didn't
NBC
all
News
the Viners become like TikTokers?
the
Or a
TikTokers,
lot of them?
YouTubers,
Yeah.
celebrities, boxers, like actually well known
Yeah. Wasn't Logan
personalities.
Paul a Vine guy?
Yeah, yeah, all the Paul brothers were. Yeah, so NBC News kind of had done this look back. In terms of, and I covered this in the beginning of the show when I was playing mute. So this they have this series looking back at 5 years since Vine got shuttered from by Twitter, and so this is a whole like a oh look here's a look back and blah blah blah. So I don't know, it's like this kind of spawned, this is I don't know what that is, but it's the thing that kind of spawned a bunch of, I guess, copycats, if you will, right? I mean,
Hmm.
obviously, from 6 seconds, a 6 second video app led to the creation of Instagram stories, led to TikTok and Snap, and YouTube Shorts, and obviously other ephemeral type of content as well. Like I don't know, it's like should and looking back, do you think that Twitter should have like regrets shutting down Vine? Like, could this have been a, a huge thing?
Yeah. Look, with startups in particular, right? Or these things, it really depends on timing is an important part of it, right?
Mhm.
And I bet they're kicking themselves now about it, right? Like, because all those people would have been basically probably still on. Now, here's the question: like this 6 second thing, um, like was probably too big of a rate limiter. Like we saw the space move to longer form content. So, could they or would they have responded the same way? It still would be an open question, right? So I don't know, like, but they had like after Vine, they had Periscope, and that also didn't work out
Yeah.
really, right? So I don't know. Like, I think Twitter has had a hard time with video just because it's a primarily text-based medium, right? Like, and
Mhm.
so, people just never got look, even fleets, right? Like when they added fleets in and tried to switch to like just still anything that wasn't their wheelhouse, it just didn't work out too good for them. And um, there's sort of a DNA to Twitter that I think like is hard to sort of betray, right?
More so than, like, I mean, like, Facebook to a certain degree was, I mean, text based, but
Hmm.
they've kind of managed to do that. Like I can see it like on Instagram. Like if Instagram went, hey, we're going to go completely text based, we're going to offer like a text based version of Instagram, right? Like that would just, I think that would just totally bomb because like I think that's a hard, I don't want to say pivot, but it's a hard thing to adjacency for Instagram because it's very visual. And I agree that Twitter is very textual based, right? And it's hard to, like, you can see static images, you can see gifs, like even the audio. It's like Twitter Spaces doesn't necessarily like jive with the what you think of Twitter, so to speak, but it kind of works to a certain degree because you're not actually necessarily looking at something. Like you're not actively watching a video about blah blah blah. Although those that are watching this show on Twitter, hey, props to you. Um, so yeah, I think it's an interesting shakeup. I guess it's almost similar to like YouTube saying, "Hey, we're going to support podcasts," and like, wait, why? I think that's also still a little weird for me to say. If you're watching like the latest music video from like Adele or Taylor Swift or anything like that, like there has to be that visual component because just having it just be like the audio only on things like YouTube wouldn't make any sense, right? And but
Yeah,
actually,
I think one of the problems, Ken, like, I think is, yeah, and you see this in Facebook too, by the way, right? Like Facebook does live, but you can't consume it like unless you're in Facebook,
mhm,
right? And I think that's just an inherent rate limiter, right? Like, like if you're in Twitter, I believe even if you start watching a video, I think like if you leave the post, it's gone, right? Like it doesn't minimize down or do picture in a picture kind of thing or any of that stuff. And so part of this is just a consumption model, right? Like, like cool, fine. If I'm in Twitter, you can listen to a space without being like in the app. But like if I'm listening, if folks are listening to us live on Twitter right now, I don't, I haven't tried it, but like, do they have to like stay in our post to watch it?
You mean like to watch this video? Watch
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to because I don't think like there's no picture in picture, right? So if you like, I would watch like a like Bloomberg video or CNBC or whatever. If you once you leave that post, yes, you don't have the audio anymore, right? I think in the YouTube app you can still navigate through different videos, but still have the video playing, but that's only on the app, right? But
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's not the case on Twitter. However, if you're on a Twitter space, obviously you can still navigate throughout the app while still having the audio playing. It's just not the video aspect of it. So
Yeah. I'm like trying to find our video to see if like what happens.
yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't think that's the case that you're gonna be able to. There's no that picture in picture type of view that you would have on Twitter itself. But look, I think Vine is. Oh, Victor says that he has YouTube Premium. He can minimize, close the phone screen, and can still hear you. This is how I
Yeah.
consume us. Wow, so Victor just listens to our voice. Victor doesn't want to see us. Well, so that very much appreciate that, Victor.
Well,
Um,
also, but like iOS makes it hard. Like when on Android, you can do picture in picture on YouTube, I believe, without the premium thing.
yeah.
But in iOS, you can't. You have to use like a hack to be able to do the picture in picture thing. It works. Picture in picture works for like Netflix and Comcast or Xfinity, but it doesn't work for YouTube. Like,
Yeah.
and, again, this inconsistent sort of consumption model, I think, is part of like the problem for why some of these folks don't have success.
Well, and it's not just with mobile, but it's also on the desktop, right? It's like I want to consume stuff on my desktop
Yeah.
as I'm working, and it's like, oh, maybe I accidentally refresh, or I want to like, oh, I have a notification. Let me go here, then I lose it, and I'm like, oh crap, now I have to go back, and then you go back, and you have to go through an ad, and you're just like, okay, forget it. That's just it's just utter waste of time, right? You kind of lose your spot.
Hmm.
Um, so it's just I think you're right. There's an inconsistency in the whole thing. So. Um, all right. Well, just have a couple of other things here. There's a podcast apparently. So let's talk just quickly about podcast, and then we can wrap up this show here. So apparently, podcasting. There's two companies, Racket and Stir. So Racket, the short form audio platform, and the money management software provider Stir have launched a fund called Pod Cash, cash with a dollar sign. So it's like Kesha with a dollar sign, right? So this fund will put in a one-time payment between $250 and $5,000 to up to 100 recipients in the U.S. who are up and coming podcasters, right? So hey, you're thinking about doing a podcast. It's doing something interesting. You can apply, and this fund will, if chosen, will say, hey, here you go. And it's not just it's almost seems like it's a game show kind of thing because there's judges, there's angel investors like Jason Calacanis, YouTuber Humble the Poet, and several executives that will evaluate all these applications. But here's the thing: this is not a a grant. This is not a scholarship. This is actually a sponsorship, right? So and if you are eligible to receive this and you are chosen, you are obligated to put to deliver an an ad that's provided by Racket and Stir on the shows that you develop, right? That you ultimately develop. They're not going to, there's no hard and fast rule according to this article. They're saying it's all in the honor system. So yeah. So they're not going to go after you and say, "Hey, I'm sorry on this show we did not hear this." It's like you tell them based on your, on your honor that, "Hey, I read this this message to promote Stir and Racket. So it's sponsorship. It's not really. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, it's great for those that want to get up and running, but not sure. You know, if you're interested, great. Go ahead and apply. You have until March 4th. So, um,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's a nice short path to being a monetized creator.
yeah. I mean, it's like I think it's different. It's a different way to get your show started, right? To
Hmm.
get that support. It's I think it's hard when you look at all the other like other at some platforms like YouTube and Instagram, TikTok, and everything. They have dedicated creator funds to do this. Like for example, I am part of the Twitter Spaces Spark program, so I get paid to do Twitter Spaces, to test it out and offer feedback. So that like there's that, but I
Hmm.
think from a podcasting standpoint, because there's a lot more it's a lot more fragmented because it's not really one single platform like that kind of like where do you get that support from? And so this is like, hey, it's here you go. We'll give you these. We have this monetary opportunity for you only not I don't want to say downside, but the only caveat is that you just have to read sponsorship. That's not necessarily a bad thing, right? To say,
Hmm.
hey, you know, I mean, it's no different from saying, hey, this podcast is supported by a Grammarly or Squarespace or whatever, like what you typically see on a YouTube or on a podcast typically. So, and it's a win. It's ultimately a win-win for both people, both parties. I hope. Um, but it's just another avenue for those that are like, hey, I want to do with podcasts. Let's do that. So, but yeah, and then let's finally tune in. I'm not sure if a lot of people are familiar with TuneIn. It's a internet radio service. They
I
launched
use it in my car.
Oh, see, there you go. So podcast. So this is relevant to you, sort of. They announced the launch of a new service called Tune In on Air, and the point is to drive to encourage podcasters to say, hey, you don't want to, if you're having problems, putting your stuff out on Spotify, Apple, Google, like traditional podcasting services, and can't drive the views, try giving internet radio a shot. So it seems like TuneIn wants to be like an iHeartRadio type of situation, or I guess they're calling iHeart right now. Um, kind of building up this podcast network. The advantage here is that you're going to be able to get distribution to 30 million listeners in the U.S. Plus, have your show possibly distributed on many connected devices,
Hmm.
including cars, such as yours, Greg. So this is the only downside. Well, the only caveat again, it's you're probably looking to pay $249 a quarter. So not necessarily a deal breaker per se.
So wait, so we could pay $249 and basically have our show
Tune in.
on TuneIn?
I believe so. We
That'd
could.
be an interesting experiment. We should try
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and you get all the support that you possibly might need, analytics and help for getting the show live and on linear
Yeah.
programming. If you're a nonprofit, it is free. The service tier is free to use, right?
We should try all these things. Why not? We've wanted a podcast. Why don't we try the racket thing?
Well, we could, if assuming that I know how to use my technology to actually broadcast correctly. But go figure.
Yeah.
Um,
We'll wait till I return to normal so
yeah, I
we don't
need I
have
need
this
adult supervision to help me out with this. Yeah.
um,
So I mean, look. I think this is kind of interesting to see this. It's like I'm like, wait, why does a
well, this
internet?
is the dream, no? Isn't this what you like ultimately want? Is like
Yeah.
big, massive. I mean, I guess what they're the cash grab here, of course, is that most people probably won't get anyone to tune in. So this is just like milking people for an extra, $250 per
Yeah.
quarter.
Although this is not so unlike what I think we covered in the news ages ago. Like Amazon has been thinking about doing some sort of a live radio type of offering for podcasters as well. So
Mm.
I think this is not out of the realm of a possibility for others to jump into this space. I kind of, in my weird way, I kind of equate this to being like the version of live streaming, right? Because live radio is basically live streaming.
Mhm.
Well, podcasting is a little bit more more recorded, right? It's pre-recorded content versus live streaming. So maybe they're hoping to be able to do that live, as opposed to getting rid of all the editing and all the other production work that needs to take place. So look, yeah, sure. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at Racket. Let's take a look at TuneIn and see what goes on with that. Maybe we'll have
Mhm.
we'll reach out to the folks at TuneIn and see if we can't have them on the show and tell us more about live radio and podcasting and what they're doing there.
Cool.
But anyways,
Yeah.
that kind of wraps
Well,
up this messy edition of Created Briefs. Greg, good luck in Boulder for your Techstars
thanks.
Accelerator. We will miss you next week. On next Wednesday is we will have created economy, where I will be chatting with our dear friend Abhinav and his his co-founders at Eurofeed.
Your feed.
And
Yep.
then Friday, hopefully the technology issues will be sorted out.
Yeah.
And
Well, we'll see.
we'll see, and we'll do another edition of Created Beefs. So until then,
All right.
thank you everyone for joining us, and have a good weekend.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.